That just means that we're starting to record because the little guy's out of his body now, see?
He jumped the gun on us. This, let me introduce the show. This is Free Range, and this is Scott Lemriel, and we're talking about out-of-body experiences, among many other things. Hi, Scott.
Hi, we're not going to bring any negative. We're not going to throw stones at other people in the world, like so many people are doing now.
Yes,
or at me, they don't even know me, or they'll just start throwing crap out there they've heard on the internet, or pass around negativity and fear of almost everything or anything, including the future, of each other. And when they're doing that, of course, none of them are really working together, in which case they are divided and conquered.
So true.
Play the game of conferences and UFO and disclosure for the next 20 years. Can be on coast to coast. They can be on any radio show. And in 20 years, as long as there's a balance of truth and misdirection put out on those shows, if people follow them that way, without direct experience to give them right discrimination, they will be in doubt and fear 20 years from now. And nothing will have changed. There are people in the world who deliberately do this for now, and they're being guided to cease this kind of activity because it's done deliberately. There are no freely owned radio stations in the United States. There aren't any anywhere in the world. They were pretty much commandeered under things like the National Security Act after World War II to control the media and the news, to control the populace, to rebuild a damaged world, and to operate a secret or classified, not only space program, trade program, treaties that the public was kept ignorant of regarding extraterrestrials, one way or another.
They seem to be trying to come out with some misinformation on that right now, too. I was just watching something the other day, I didn't watch it all. I just looked at part of it, and I went, oh, here it is again.
Yeah, I don't know what that is you're referring to, but I don't deal with misinformation. I don't watch it. I don't waste my time on it. On the internet, on YouTube, on TV, radio, or anything else, or interaction with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I have very little to do with UFO researchers or the disclosure community people, other than my work separately from all that. I do that because they are busy throwing stones at each other right now, and I stay completely out of that. I don't throw stones at other people. I'm not going to name names, not on a show. It's not my job to throw stones or throw negativity or misinformation or outright fear or complete fabricated nonsense out in the world towards others, no matter what they're doing, even when I know quite clearly what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Some of it's motivated by fear, money, followers. They're afraid they're going to lose them to some other researcher or presenter or something, and they proclaim what they are by throwing stones at each other. And they're divided and conquered. Why would a hidden government be worried about such people that will not work together? Well, they're not worried about them.
They like it.
They like it. That's right. And of course, because the motivations of many of these people is not sincere or honest to some degree. I'm sure they all started out that way. But then they get caught up in the game, having to make money and all that. And then they get controlled. Fear of loss is a great controller.
Oh my gosh, yes, it is.
When you just drop caring about that stuff and do what you're here to do, people listen. Even hidden government listens to what I do. They don't attack me. They don't interrupt the internet. Men in black don't come to my door. I don't complain about interruption to this and that because it does not happen. And people might say, well, how can he say that? Well, I can say it because it's true. And also because I'm not threatening anybody on this planet. Not the Queen of England, not royal families, not the Illuminati, not the classified space program or classified arena, classified government separate from elected people. I'm not a threat, and I've never proclaimed being one.
That's big.
I'm here to help them recover, becoming normal human beings who do not operate and make decisions incorrectly based on subconsciously driven programmed fear. And they're all operating that way. They know it. They just don't know how to undo it, not on their own.
They can't undo it on their own, can they?
I'm only one person. I certainly don't have the time to work one-on-one with 7 billion people. Otherwise, but I can point the way, have a book, have some techniques, get them working to recover what's been suppressed in them, to neutralize the effect the subconscious mind's having on them. And lots of beings I work with from other worlds and other realities are working with those people when they're out of their bodies at night, when they're in a more expanded state of consciousness, where it's easier to get them to agree to co-create themselves out of this trap on this planet, which was done to them without their consent anyway. So they should have a right to recover, don't you think?
Right. I keep hoping to see some, disclosure.
Well, you have to be able to look, Gail, at disclosure, or you'll be looking for negative things. You won't see it.
What do you mean by that? Explain.
There's a show that came out this last year, and I'm not promoting the show. It has its flaws, and it's Project Blue Book about Jay Hynek, a physicist who was hired by the Air Force after World War II in order to debunk UFO sightings and people coming forward and try to make up ways to proclaim that it was some natural phenomena. And in his life, he had to stop doing it and change because he started having his own direct experiences with what he was trying to cover up. About his life and what he really experienced, and that's part of disclosure. It's a TV show. The whole year's been on. There's going to be another year.
Wow.
Files was a part of disclosure on the negative side. Deliberate. People don't understand that ever since World War II, under the National Security Act, there have been what are called classified consultants in the film, TV, and radio industries. And they simply tell people, don't do that, don't print that. No, that part of that film can't work because that's classified and you'll go to jail. And the heads of corporations just don't do it. It's that simple.
Sad.
People are very naive. They don't understand the world they're in. I don't think anybody deliberately classified everything with the intent of causing harm. But they've been doing it for so long beyond reason that what they do now is not constructive. Waste money and time and energy. The money that's spent every year just to keep the lid on the whole UFO extraterrestrial issue is astronomical.
Wow.
So it's really kind of a negative thing. When you lie and deceive people, you're channeling and working with negative energy. By the primary law of physics, every action creates an equal and opposite reaction. Simply means that if you're doing that, you are connecting with and creating with your imagination and emotions with negative things, deception. And it causes disease and unhappiness and imbalance on a true core level of being in the people who are doing it. They die and get cancer and do everything else. They keep passing on their little control to their predecessor, their, progeny and so forth for the future, classify them and keep it running. A lot of it's just to send materials off planet under a secret trade program. Get antiquated extraterrestrial technology. And if anybody with common sense would know that's a hook, line, and sinker, a trap. Because people who do that from other worlds do not have our best interests in mind, and they never have. Some other worlds that are kind have been working for decades to get awake people on this planet enough to make different decisions than what they made after World War II with the wrong crowd. They're not tyrants. They're going to come down here and force it on everyone. Tyrants would do it or manipulate it. But kind beings find other ways to do this, including, especially recently, neutralizing the negative subconscious drives in tyrant extraterrestrial races. They're not motivated to do what they've been doing. Something's changing out there that's never changed before in the races that travel the stars that are huge in number, that are kind. They're taking responsibility on now for races that no longer have free will to make correct decisions, like the people on planet Earth, because they don't have free will. They don't have it amongst their own governments and people because they're being deceived, and they don't have it as individuals. They believe they do.
Yeah. They
pose
do.
a question to people, because people in the world follow your little show and Perry's little show out of Thailand, because I know they're contacting me. Unexpected people find it. They're guided to it.
That's awesome.
It isn't the numbers. It's who finds what and why. How come they find your little show or Perry's in Thailand? Out of all the glut that's on the internet in the world with billions of dollars behind it, how do they do that? How do they come across such a thing that's not really funded with money?
Yeah, it sure isn't.
And they find it. There's a reason. Not everything can be controlled from people on this planet as far as what gets here, comes here, because if that were true, tyrants never would have controlled them subconsciously as they have. By misusing technology that the CIA couldn't even see coming. Duh. And then it had to be neutralized, has to be reversed in a non-destructive way. I've mentioned this every time. We haven't had a nuclear war, not because of the people on this planet, military generals or leaders telling them to push the button, because they did push it to blow us all up. And thinking this is a righteous, right thing to do. And launch computers were shut down from space. Not from people on Earth. Just simply saying, look, you guys, we don't want to run your world, but you can't do that because that'll affect us. And it'll affect people in parallel dimensions and other worlds you know nothing about. You don't have that right. And we don't. And we never have. And we never will have that right. That's just a simple truth. That's the law of the universe stuff. Forget about nuclear war. You got a bunch of nuclear radioactive instrument stuff in rusting bomb casings and old rockets that they can't really use. But it's a nice tool to keep people dumbed down enough to, nuclear war, listen to your government.
Yeah, I just heard somebody saying something about some kind of nuclear exchange was going to happen, and I'm just going, oh my God.
Why would you listen to that, Gail?
I don't listen to it. I was talking to a friend. A friend brought it up, and then I have to deal with it. I'm not going to shut the friend off just like that, just because he says something that's kind of stupid.
How did you handle it?
I just say, it's not going to happen. That's all I can, what else can I say? They go, well, I don't know about that.
People don't expect to hear that, do they?
No, not at all.
I guess what really that comes from is, it's like saying to someone, if you imagined in your heart the world was peaceful, governments didn't lie to people, and everybody was harmonious and traveling among the stars and having a good life, living 1,000 years, if everybody actually started doing that instead of all the fear and negativity they're barfing up on everyone all over the planet, without knowing it, the world would change overnight. So really, the world and its people have to come to a point where they agree to start working the gift of imagination properly, because it isn't made up in their brain at all. It just isn't. Never was. Can't be. Doesn't occur in the brain cells. You don't, there's my motion picture camera in my movie theater. I'm looking at a beautiful butterfly flying by a waterfall. Oh, there it is. And I made it up in my little brain. No, you didn't. There's nothing in the brain that can do that. The being is doing that, that's running the brain and this body. The sooner people get that, the better off this planet will be in every way imaginable.
That's one of the reasons I decided to put this above my head, to try to emphasize the fact that the real being is up there running this body. This body is not my being. That's my being. I mean, that's just a portrayal of it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's on the front cover of the Emerald Doorway book, one of the books I published. About, pretty much it begins before the last polar shift on this planet, where what people call the Golden Age ended and it went into an Iron Age we're into today, with cycles of time, as they're called, or Manvantaras, or great ages, yugas, Kali yugas, things like that. Great periods or epochs of time, hundreds of millions to billions of years, that people on Earth don't know how to calculate or even think about, but people from other worlds do. It just means that the Golden Age to Iron Age that was taking place on this planet for a very long time, wiping out all life on the surface and recreating new land masses from the rising ocean floors and the sinking of other land masses, has been permanently stopped. So this planet can evolve for millions of years like other worlds without this polar flip nonsense.
Yeah, someone was just saying that the other day too. On one of the, when I do a video, I go through and look at different comments and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, you're going to get them.
The polar flip was one. I said, no, that's not going to happen. It's being stopped.
Yeah.
People gotta. I don't know.
How freeing is it to you to not be afraid of the future?
Big.
Yeah.
That's so big. And I've been trying to promote the idea of concentrating on the positive spiritual growth, the good, the kind of future you want instead of the kind of future you don't want.
Right, yeah. Because that's real free will in operation. And you're operating from free will. Most of your fellow human beings are not yet. It just means that they don't remember what they are that isn't this, isn't the body, isn't DNA. That is energy, but not molecular, it's not nuclear, and yet it runs this stuff. And they don't know what they look like as a being. They look in a mirror and say, well, I must be this body. They're all confused because they think somehow this body, when it dies, reconstructs itself in some other plane. You know, the worms stop eating it and all goes back together and they get it ascended somewhere. No. No.
And then you'll see some of these pictures of where you see the astral body leaving the dead body, and then that assumption is made that that's.
Well, when people see that, most people, when they see something leave the physical body at death, it's kind of a ethereal kind of cloud.
Yeah.
Some people with deeper sight can see it as a form that's lit up that looks like their physical body.
Yeah.
But all they're seeing is the astral form, the life they're living on the next dimension that they're running while this body was still alive, simultaneously. And all they're doing is joining it. That doesn't mean that they won't be compulsively compelled to come back here, get another physical body, and reincarnate here through a baby with no memory again, compulsively, from fear. Fear drives people to seek security in something like this, and there's no such thing. And that's what drives people to reincarnate. Tyrants have done that to people before the history of this world even, in order to control them, to keep them riveted to a lower consciousness, physical, so they can use them as slaves. They don't want competition from people waking up. And this is done off-world by other races in galactic history that people no longer recall. People have been on this planet many lifetimes and in other worlds, and they no longer recall that either. And they can believe in any religion they want, worship, or follow anybody they wish. But if they don't have experience about what lies beyond this life and what's out there in the multidimensional universe before they die, they're going to be dying in subconsciously driven fear. And that's going to compulsively drive them to come back here, or one of the lower dimensions below the void, which are also run with positive and negative streams of energy, and they're just going to be thrown into confusion all over again. It doesn't work. It's not the purpose for a human being.
I've learned so much in studying with you and going on these journeys that so much of this that didn't make sense to me before makes so much sense now.
Remember, I've always said the reason you know it now is because you always did. And you just have to wake up the confidence of it over some time with exercising your higher faculties. What do I mean by higher faculties? Well, for instance, let's take the key one. What is imagination? Most people on Earth, you talk to them, even PhDs, psychiatrists, psychologists, who deal with administering symptom-suppressing drugs, they cure nothing.
I know.
And you can't blame them. They grew up this way. I don't. It's just that that's all they've been taught to work with. You know, a psychiatrist, psychologist is a PhD, is a doctor, or who work in they have to know medicine plus, just prescribe drugs.
Yeah.
But when they deal with working with problems with people that are mental or emotionally imbalanced, they don't know really what they're doing because they don't know what the mind really is.
Well, I saw a lot of that, Scott, because I worked in a mental health institution.
The mind is not in the brain. First mistake they make. I can't blame them for growing up and being taught in universities this way.
Programmed.
It isn't what people are taught on other planets that are human about mental, if they call it that, they don't. Any kind of science that deals with disease is never approached theoretically. It's always approached as a cure. There's no industry suppressing symptoms. There are industries supporting curing everything. They don't want it amongst their societies, their people at all. They don't make money off that kind of thing, ever. So the whole cultures are raised differently than on this planet. People on Earth have no idea whatsoever what exists out there beyond Earth because it's been suppressed deliberately.
You know, that you mentioned the part about the money thing, and I know that you've said before that money doesn't exist on other planets, and that's an extremely difficult concept.
On some, it does. On tyrant worlds.
Okay.
Worlds that leaders deceive their populace. On planets that don't do that, money is illegal.
That whole concept is hard for people to
Yeah.
How can that be possible?
They say, well, let's go to a barter system and get rid of money.
Yeah, that's the first thing they say.
Money came from a barter system.
Yeah.
If you're the king and you own the 5,000 sheep and 20,000 heads of cattle, and your peasantry owns a few chickens, you're not going to get a fair trade situation.
No, not hardly.
Get a paper from a tree with ink on it says legal tender. Well, here's my chicken. Well, wait a minute. I want 1,000 chickens for this one cow. Oh, your whole village has got together and give up a chicken for the king to get that one cow. That's not exactly an honorable system.
No, it's not.
Well, they don't barter. The people can't even conceive of that. What do you mean they don't barter? They don't have money, but they don't barter. How do they pay for things? Well, they don't. Duh. They don't grow up thinking that way.
Yeah. Well, how do you have a house? How do you pay your utilities? How do you have this? How do you do that? If you don't have any money.
You don't have money, you pay taxes. No, they don't pay taxes. They don't pay for the taxes for the right to be born on a planet to some elite group that just herded that into their own favor. No.
The whole concept of you have to earn a living.
That's not what they do in other worlds. They get up excited to go to work, if you want to call it that, they don't, to create and invent new ways of doing things in every field of discipline and technology and mineralogy and metallurgy, everything you can think of. Excited to be of benefit and be recognized they're being of benefit, not just for their planet, for the whole organization of planets. And they share. There's no money involved.
No competition with sharing then either, right?
They share spaceships and scout ships and technology. Representatives from all those worlds go on those ships together. And it's not like what people think it is. It just isn't. And it isn't futuristic. They've been doing it for ages. They don't come and dominate a world. This planet Earth has not been forcefully controlled, attempted, yes, by tyrant extraterrestrial races in its millions of years of history since the dinosaurs were made extinct, 65 million. Where's the history of extraterrestrials coming in? Well, you're not going to find it out growing up in any school system on this planet right now, are you? No. You're going to learn all about the wondrous ancient cultures of Rome. Or I will feed you to the lions. Or maybe we'll go to Egypt, same problem. Maybe we'll go to Samaria, a reptilian mining colony brought human slaves here under treaty. Oh, let's go to Aztec and Mayan and all that kind of stuff. Wait a minute, those are slave mining colonies too. So there's our great cultures with pyramids. How come nobody's taught anything about the wondrous cultures that have come and gone here?
Not one either.
Not schools. So either they don't know about it or out of ignorance, or intentionally they misteach people. Mostly out of ignorance, okay, because they just don't know. They grew up the same way. So if you go back in galactic history enough, off-world, and explore the records and work with beings who have recorded it, and you were there in other lives, you remember this stuff, okay. Then you look at history and you go, wait a minute. Way back out in history, let's see. There was a great war 500,000 years ago. And the bad guys were beaten. And then there was a treaty, and then people rebuilt for millions of years. Well, not millions, hundreds of thousands anyway. Because that war came to an end 500,000 years ago, and there was a treaty signed. So there hasn't been a war out in space as people are promoting now on the internet. Big war going on, and Earth's almost going to make it. Maybe we'll ascend, and oh, it could be destroyed and all that stuff. There's no evidence in the skies or on Earth or out in space anywhere that there's any war taking place, because there isn't. Tyrants, if they're beaten in a war, are usually treated with far more respect than they deserve, technically. They're policed. They don't go and dominate what's left of their worlds and take them over and wipe out everything, their last man, woman, and child, if they're reptilian or something else, or Greys or tall whites or Nordics or whatever people call them here. That's not what they do. They just make sure that these people in time will choose differently, and if they don't have the science to correct their subconscious nonsense that drives them to behave this way, then they just keep them in their own place. Those kind of beings will try to sneak around any treaty, around space patrols, any way they can, try to capture more human slaves and torture them just to feel, diabolically good about themselves. And then maybe some people on Earth, because Earth has been in a treaty, kind of like a Switzerland, because of where it was and what was going on at the time this Great War happened. So Earth, which wasn't like it is today, and there was another planet in our solar system back then too, that's an asteroid field now, circling around the sun.
Did that happen during that Great War?
No.
No? Okay.
Much later. No, let's see. Not before the Great War, actually.
Oh, okay.
But it was because of the influence of negative beings. It happened actually, well, depends on your way you look at it, but that happened little ways back, because we've had a number of polar flips on this planet in a series of cycles. 6 ice ages in 600,000 years. Okay, so you have to look at which one it was in, because there's a number of histories there in all those sections, each 100,000-year history. You have to go back and look at it, because the poles of this planet flip overnight, magnetic fields and physical fields. And the catastrophic result of that, and wind currents and tidal currents and all that and other planetary bodies, is that the land masses that were there break up and the seafloor rises up, and it counterbalances. You get new land masses quite violently, quite deliberately, quite quickly. And then you can go into something like an ice age, because those kinds of events cover the sky in cloud cover. It prevents heat from getting into the planet at first, and then that kills all the plankton and sea life, and people die, or they're killed just by the violent affair of it if you can't get taken off world. And then eventually it goes into a freezing cycle, and then that melts down and you get back to normal. When it's ready to have people come back, it's colonized from space under treaty. Different pockets, small groups, where you can have your little people bring your slaves or bring your good culture, and you can proliferate to a degree, but not by controlling the entire planet. People have tried to control this planet, breaking that treaty in a number of times, and it were stopped. I mean, this planet is not what people think it is.
That's for sure.
It isn't normal. It's not even a normal planet. We get these cycles, these seasons like this. Planet's poles move like this towards the sun and away from it as it's going around the sun. We get these cycles. So you get summer and winter when the United States is further from the sun on one cycle, and it comes around and it's leaning towards the sun. So we get seasons. But the fact that the poles do this is not normal. Something caused that.
Wow.
A long time ago. What happened with the planet in our solar system, it was a planet inhabited by 3 yeah, kind of semi-militaristic races, humanoid. And it was destroyed, blown up with a single device, blown apart from the core outward. And it's 50,000 miles an hour, whatever it was going, just as an example. It's moving in an orbit around the sun. It's moving in a momentum that counterbalances being pulled away from the sun and the sun's gravity pulling it, and it moves around in order to keep a balance between those two at a certain speed. When something's blown up that way, some big chunks get out of that, maybe hit Mars or in its atmosphere, come and hit Earth, cause destruction for a very long time. But the chunks of a planet blown apart like that will spread out already in momentum, in a gravitational, eventually, majority of them will spread out and form rubble in the orbit of a planet, especially if it's roughly twice as far between Mars and Jupiter as it is between any two other planets, because something was in there moving around between the two. That's just rubble now. There's a golden-sided radiant pyramid floating in the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter right now. It cannot be affected by military weaponry, advanced reverse engineered extraterrestrial technology, not even by advanced extraterrestrial races or their technology. And it's doing something in our solar system. It isn't negative. No one's being threatened. Nobody running governments, classified or otherwise, are being threatened by it. And they're curious, they want to know what it's for. It isn't something they will ever be able to control. They're used to control.
Yes.
It's meant to harm. So they're also wondering, what do we do with this? Can't do anything with it, but it's not hurting us. Maybe we should find out what it is. Maybe it can be a good thing for once. Stuff like that is starting to happen in our galaxy and in our solar system, even on our planet. That never happened before, not in this way. As people begin to wake up from this nightmare they're in, living a life with no memory. Like I say, when they think they have free will, and they don't remember what they are, that is not a physical body, that only lives a few blips around the sun, 80 years or 80 trips around the sun if you're lucky. And then you get out of here. If they can't remember that, and they don't remember what they knew or where they were or what they could do before they were born here, they do not have free will. How could they? How can you make proper decisions about eternity and who you are and how you're going to create with others on many levels if you don't remember any of it?
That just makes so much sense.
You can't. So that means whatever it is that's terrorizing people subconsciously, to be terrified of remembering all that, has to be unraveled in a careful, undo those knots very carefully, so that people begin to recover this while they're still living a balanced life here. If you do it any other way, there's chaos. People freaking out in the streets and throwing things through windows and storefronts and stealing and robbing, just going crazy. This was a concern people had at the end of World War II, with people finding about extraterrestrials, good and bad, coming here. How are you going to get a populace to rebuild a damaged world and be baby boomers if the governments told them that there were these powerful beings from other worlds coming here, especially when we started sending off radioactive nuclear weapons? Duh, yeah, I guess they would.
Yeah.
The same beings are doing that. There are tyrant ways of raiding them and blowing it up. Oh, what, they're doing it to themselves on purpose?
Are you kidding me? I can imagine. I just can imagine.
Oh my God, did you know? Hey, Joe, come here. You gotta see this. See this long range? Look, did you see that hydrogen bomb go off? You mean they set it off in their own atmosphere just to test it? Yeah. Oh my
Holy.
God. Serious. We gotta talk to the council. This is a real problem out there. That's how we thought about it. Duh. What
I know.
What the generals think at the time that, push the button to blow that up, but they think, no, we're not going to be noticed. No, we can just blow anything we want. They'll just ignore us. So, no.
Oh my God.
Come on, think about
You know, and too, when they were doing some of the testing, they would have their own soldiers or people right there.
it. Yeah, and what made them think that was a good thing?
Oh, how cruel. Oh my God.
Maybe they're running from some subconscious fear that's terrorizing them to make incorrect decisions they think are right all the time, and that it's being manipulated from off planet, particularly focused on the elite. Duh. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Tyrants don't want to blow up the cities and mining and operations and rare earth mineral mining. They want to get us to give them the stuff and have our people be the slaves to go get it for them. And the people on in Hollywood, big giant cockroaches coming down on Independence. They're going to blow people up and eat them and blow them up and kill them and, you know, ruin all the cities and blow them up from space.
Wasn't that Independence Day?
Yeah, but it was a fun film to watch. It was made.
Yeah.
But the people who made it are thinking in terms of fear of extraterrestrials. Can you blame them? They've been manipulated to think that way, particularly on purpose since World War II ended, deliberately. So we can't blame them. You know, they really just, you know, makes good movies, you know, good guys fighting bad guys. And at the very end, when cities are all blown up and lots of people have died, then they finally killed the cockroach monsters from another planet somehow.
That's true.
And that's you know, that's story. That, and a lot of it's true in history. When you go out in space, there were wars and there was stuff that happened. But that isn't what real tyrants that travel the stars think like. They want to eat you. They're going to get people. They're going to steal people from Earth without anybody's permission, even our governments. But they're going to have a treaty, and they're going to get our own people to ship resources off planet secretly in a classified space program to get reverse engineered, antiquated extraterrestrial technology. If they're being manipulated subconsciously against their better judgment to make such a deal. And they were. They know it.
You know, people never questioned really the subconscious mind. They pretty just much have always felt and acted like that was a perfectly normal thing. Well, you need a subconscious mind to run your heart and your body and all that kind of stuff. And little do they know that these programs exist that are misdirecting them. And
well, the whole point of a subconscious mind that's artificially created, by the way, normal human beings in other worlds do not have subconscious minds. They know who they are that's running a body. Why would you need anything subconscious?
Exactly. That's why that's important to know.
Subconscious, you don't know what's in it, and somebody else does.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
So if it's a program that has terror and death and domination by an extraterrestrial tyrant, I'm going to eat you again if you ever remember any of this. Put that in there. Occlude the sight and sound so you don't see or hear what it is, because then you'd remember. No, you just feel the terror of it. And it affects your nervous system. And that affects how you think, and so you visualize a negative thing of the future. You're stuck on Earth. That's how that works. When you start recovering, when a person starts recovering awareness of who they are, that looks and has a shape, and it's spherical, and it is the human being, not this. Something happens in their life, and they begin to unravel these tight knots. Some part of them starts to co-create with other beings that can help them get out of it, of free will, awakening free will. They begin to create their way out of their own trap. The way these things are implanted in people, it makes them use their imagination in a negative way to connect with negative things about the future.
Yes.
It allows them to the earth, because part of them wants a good life for themselves and wonderment and all that. The other part is, my God, everybody's lying to us. The world's going to blow up. It's going to be a nuclear Armageddon. Then we'll go to some heaven. Now, why would some heaven want people like that coming there and ruining everything there? They have no experience. They don't know what they're doing. They don't remember, and they're just going to go ruin somewhere else.
Because they've been saved.
No, it's an easy. I don't criticize that stuff. I'm not here to bash religions, Gail. I don't do it because I don't blame people for what they've been brought up to believe. It's okay, but except one thing's missing from the world's religions on this earth, plural, all of them. Direct experience and knowing. They have faith, but the actual stuff that's known behind it, above it, beyond it, is not in their consciousness. So they leave this life basically terrorized of knowing what they used to know as that Atma long ago, before they were compelled to incarnate here with no memory on this planet. In a history they do not recall, and they're afraid to remember it. Or they're told, if you get out of your body while you're alive, Satan will get you, or the devil, whatever they name it on any religion on earth.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't true. The fact is, the Atma isn't material. It's not made of matter. It is energy, but it's not nuclear. No protons, electrons, and all that stuff. It is before it, and it's energy that supports all of that, good and bad. They don't remember that. So when they think about things, they don't understand that what they are is not matter. It can't be affected by matter. It can't be affected by space and time. Black holes, time warps, weapons, bombs, nuclear, hydrogen, cobalt, any of them cannot affect the Atma. The Atma can be manipulated to believe that it is physical or a body, and then it fears injury, and then it fears death, and then it fears the loss of this lifetime. And then it thinks, I've got to take this with me when I die because it's got to be reincarnated or ascended or something. But this isn't right. The Atma is not a physical body, but it runs them. These forms were developed by a race long ago to this genetic level. They were supposed to work in a way that an Atma could run it and bring higher awareness of the multidimensional creation it plays in into a conditioned body through this limited brain, this nervous system, and it could enlighten this form that it runs through on this dimension in parallel dimension in the physical molecular time rate that is what we're used to, where Earth is and the moon is we see. There are many parallel dimensions in the physical universe that radiate at different time rates, faster, 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 to get to what you call the astral plane. And scientists here on Earth, classified ones, know there are parallel dimensions, but they don't really understand the whole thing of it, how it works and why it exists or who put it there.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I wasn't trying to be sarcastic of any kind of religion. I was just pointing out something that appears to keep people from trying or doing anything else that might actually help them with recall of their true. That was all I really knew.
Yeah, I think people got that. That's really what you meant. I'm just very careful when representing my work because it isn't focused on condemning or throwing stones at anyone. It is about helping people recover within whatever they believe, real direct experience about what they believe.
Yes.
Because if they have real direct experience beyond faith, somehow wake that up while they're alive, and they can get out of their bodies, which they do every night anyway when they go to sleep. Their fear keeps them from knowing anything or bringing back awareness of what they do when they're out because they're afraid of it, or they're taught it's evil or bad, or they'll get caught. Well, here's the point I say to people for their own good. If you think you'll get caught by bad guys by getting out of your body as a being that isn't even made of matter, if you think that way, then you're going to be bound to Earth. In other words, if you think getting out of your body makes you vulnerable, it means you're already trapped, caught by the devil. Because you're on Earth, as low as you can get, in a planet in a physical universe, with no memory of what you are that is not this, or how to move around the multidimensional creation like you once did, before you found yourself on this planet with no memory, or very little. So that means something happened in a history they're terrified of remembering that put them here with no memory. And all they've got is faith or somebody to believe in something that something from outside on Earth, equally as misdirected, tells them is true. There's nothing wrong with what they're believing in other than the fact that they're not having direct experience about it. Oh, you can't know the Supreme Being. We're just humans. We can't know that. That's an absolute fabrication. It's misdirection. It's not true.
Yes. Yes.
The human brain, no. A body, no. The being that runs this body, yes. It's spherical. It has structure and layers to it, and it has faculties. It can perceive all of that. In fact, as human beings, we're meant to be co-creators with that source that they worship. Not slaves to it. Trustworthy, prepared, awakened, enlightened, capable co-creators with that source, which is what a human being's purpose really is on any world, anywhere in creation.
So many people wonder what their purpose is, and that it's such a simple answer.
Well, it is if you can wake up to what it is, not just believe it. In other words, if you become a co-creator with the source while you're alive on Earth, that form you have on Earth becomes enlightened. It changes. The genetics change. Brain turns on. Instead of 6 to 10%, you start using 100, like you're supposed to. You begin to acquire a photographic memory. You become telepathic instead of jibber jabber. You know, instead of just working with the positive and negative streams of the lower dimensions is what people refer to as psychic. Psychic energies do not go above the void into the upper worlds. Telepathy does. They are different. They are not the same. They are not. Telepathy is a form of communication between one Atma and another and the source itself that supersedes, goes around, gets around the law of physics, gets around wormholes and gravity and dark holes and dark matter, which is actually quite bright, actually, that physical eyes can't see it. It gets around all that because it connects into an energy field that is one, not molecular, not protons, neutrons, electrons, quasars, quarks, and all those little things that people come up with, which apply to physical matter as they observe it with physical eyes and ears. But the Atma isn't limited to the tiny fraction of a spectrum that physical and eyes and ears in the human body can see. The Atma can see all of it. You, the real you, is not, and it never has been. At the core of our being has always been the understanding that we have dominance over any form of negativity, negative beings in or out of bodies, or the misuse of extraterrestrial technology on any level. But you can be made to forget that and doubt it to where you will trap yourself. Tyrants love that. If they can get a person, through fear, to imagine a wonderful future for themselves and their family, and terrible fear of Armageddon, it splits this one energy coming through that whole being into two streams in the lower dimensions, positive and negative, and opposes them to each other. It's a trap. It's Maya, illusion, karma. And it grounds the energy into the earth that could be used to liberate a person. And they stay here unaware. That's how tyrants keep a slave race working on any planet. When something comes along that begins to unravel that and change it, there's two ways in the past it's been done. The good guys come up with weapons, blow up the bad guys' ships, blow up their planets, and end the war. That creates a repercussion in space-time that's negative, even if self-righteously believed in, because it puts in, by the law of physics in the lower dimensions, every action creates an equal and opposite reaction. Mentally and emotionally, you put that out, this anger and revenge towards bad guys, and you beat them. It sets up a repercussion in space-time that sets up the conditions opposed to each other later on. And it never ends. So the neutralization of tyrant natures has to come about in a way that is stripped of negative things, fear, anger, hatred, doubt, speculation, fear of the future, all those things that keep a person in the negative energy field. Once that's dropped, they start to use their creative gift, their great faculty of the direct perception, imagination properly, correctly. And they begin to work with beings who can help them unravel this tight subconscious knot until they aren't subconscious anymore. And we're here to learn how to do that. We're here to learn how to become co-creators with the source itself, what people call the supreme being. Of course we are.
So this law of physics which exists, will the Hue ray change that as well in terms of this creating an equal and opposite reaction?
Well, what it does is really it should be working like this. Positive, negative, whirling around like a DNA spiral, but in harmony. with a third energy, the hue, and the new consciousness in the hue, the new ray, as I call it, that is designed to get these positive and negative streams in the lower dimensions that beings are supposed to wield objectively outside themselves, not through their being. They run them through their being, through fear, but the being itself is not made of matter that the positive and negative streams are.
Oh, yeah.
And it traps them. They split the consciousness out instead of keeping it like this and creating in the lower worlds that which will be of uplifting benefit to all life. They do this with it. Now you've got opposing conditions in the lower worlds. The whole idea originally was to make the lower dimensions mirrors of the upper worlds, those planes not made of matter that exist beyond the void known to most Buddhist monks, because they do exist and there are many of them. And there is no negative nature there, never has been. That doesn't mean the beings on those levels ever really had a motivation to actually change the way it was built and developed originally. The positive and negative stream and people getting all confused in it. And, you know, that's something that came about recently. The motivation to put an energy field down through that positive and negative stream and harmonize it again and end this experiment of what people call evil, good and bad. And bring it, but you have to replace it with something far better that actually works, to motivate beings in a serene way to create that which will be of an uplifting benefit to all life. And they can't think this will work if they're only doing it for their neighbor on Earth or planet Earth. They have to wake up to where they can do that for the entire multidimensional creation of beings that make up collectively the supreme source behind all life. Can't be done any other way. Has to be done collectively. So there are massive amounts of beings in other planes, the higher worlds, in the Galactic Alliance, and other planetary systems, master teachers that are moving in this direction now. And Earth's just one little blip on the radar. 7 billion people thinking they're going to resist and somehow tell all of that where to go do with itself from Earth, from misdirected fear. And they're going to try and go out there and take this out in space and plant flags over there and get their resources. And no, that's never going to happen. It's an illusion. There's no way a planet full of people like we have here are going to be allowed to play out beyond this solar system and the stars the way we are. We're crazy, destructive, fear-driven, misdirected, wrong decision-making group of people can't even get along from their neighbor across the street.
So how can your average human do something that is going to help them to co-create with all these other beings that is going to benefit all over? Not just
work with the primordial first sound that was there before the lower dimensions were made, in which case everyone on Earth and everyone in the universe on every level on every planet that is that above your head, spherical, knew they're going to have to connect telepathically back into that omnipresent field of conscious energy that underlies everything that is not matter, including the physical universe. It is in the dark matter of space. It's actually not dark, it's just human eyes can't see that high. But it's actually quite bright. That's energy between the black void of space. Everything's floating in this massive field of energy between galaxies, and it's in all the dimensions. It just is. That's the truth. I'm not making this up. It is.
I've seen it.
Yeah, so
not with these eyes, though.
When a person begins to work with the hue, which was not created on this planet, I didn't make it up. It doesn't come from one little Atma, here it is. No, I had a part in it along with everyone else, especially in the higher worlds, long ago. But it is a field of energy through which we connect as beings, Atma to Atma, white core to white core. It's telepathic. And you can connect into it to beings who know this, who don't have subconscious minds, by sending it out. And has a certain protection that goes with it, which people have to experience for themselves, or there's going to be faith. They're not going to know. They'll be in fear. Once that starts, then there's a new energy field running through this omnipresent hue that didn't exist even in the higher worlds before a few years ago, Earth time. Something changed out in creation that never happened before. that's moving in a new direction. And Earth is in the middle of being caught up in that now, fortunately.
Yes, very fortunately. I'm so happy about it. It's a wonderful thing.
So you go into the hue, which I'll do here in a few moments. I do it telepathically for those who are listening, for their benefit. I don't care if they're the Queen of England, top dude in the military-industrial complex, president of the United States, or president of any country, or chairman of the hidden government board, of directors or whatever. Whoever it is, doesn't matter. It's meant to benefit the Atma in all situations and all beings everywhere, and unravel that which is illusion, misdirection, and is negative.
And it really does, because there's been a few times where, sometimes your mind will start to wander when you're doing the journey or something like that, or some thought from life comes up, and I'll immediately do the hue, and it goes away.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'd like to tell you, the other thing I'd like to mention that I found rather profound was when you start out and you're doing the hue, and you do it a few times, then all of a sudden I have heard the hue, and I know that it's not coming from you anymore, because you can't hold your breath that long. No. So I'm hearing it from
lots of other people.
Yeah.
Because the friends I work with from out of town, including people that drive spaceships across the galaxy, just in the physical universe, they're not limited to the ships they pilot. They can also leave their bodies in that form, come to Earth, hover around, do something with people who are conscious in that form, and carry out some kind of a mission. It has nothing to do with matter or weapons, but it does have everything to do with changing consciousness or liberating it from subconsciously driven misdirection, misthinking. That's what it does. Emotions come from the next major division in creation up from the physical universe. People call it the astral plane. There are 144 dimensions parallel to each other at different molecular time rates in that section, in that level. Everything is moved there. Matter is moved there through feeling. You go up to the causal, it's through causation. Mental, through thought. Etheric, it's what they call the subconscious, but up there it isn't. It's just subconscious to people who can't comprehend such a thing or even go there and visit what they're like there. The Atma, you, are running a number of forms made of matter at these different planes simultaneously, living a life there. You don't remember, because that's part of fear of knowing. So where are you going to go when the body dies? Where does this Atma go? Does an astral body leave the physical body because it's in it somehow and separates from it? No. The essence that's running that body from the Atma is drawn up to the white core. There goes that mist. It has a choice then to focus itself on the astral life it's still living there alive, the physical body died, and visit it or visit all of them, or if it's fortunate, have the ability to go above the void into the upper worlds and start to be a co-creator with the source, which is what all of its journeys in these different forms and different levels are for, ultimately. This form, this genetic form, this DNA that makes it up, twin strands, has a number of genomes on it that are turned off, like switches. Frequencies do that. Now, if I have a genome or several on the DNA, the twin strand, that says, thou shalt live 1,050 years, and I turn it on, this body will not get diseased or die other than natural catastrophe in 1,050 years. If I'm a tyrant and I go, ooh, I stole some understanding from some advanced race about human genome, so let's shut these off. Let's make it 80 plus years, depending on their individual genetics. And that way we live 800, we can dominate them and they can't do anything about it. Put them under a thumb. Oh, I see they have photographic memories. Wait a minute. Let's turn off these so that they use 6 to 10% of 100% of a brain they've already got developed on Earth. How come the being has trouble using the whole brain? Just as a brain. Because certain things, when they get in a body or are born here, they start to work what they're used to working and they don't work. Thou shalt get out of your body instantly. Oh, no, thou shalt. Oops. Oh, Can't do it. Oh, it's hard. Imagination's tough. Oh, and all these thoughts come up. It's difficult. I can't do it. It's just, that's part of the program. Because, really getting out of your body physically, people do it. Here's the thing. They do it every night. All over the planet. No idea they're doing it.
They don't know it, though. They don't know it.
I'm going to go to sleep, Gladys. Okay, John. And she goes over and puts her body on the pillow. A couple of minutes. Instantly, people are experts at putting their body to sleep at night. And they think the brain just does it. Something automatic happens. They lay down, they decide to go to sleep. So the body puts itself in a trance state called sleep. No, it doesn't. The body can't do that to itself. Somebody unconsciously is doing it to that body. The real person is doing that. They're causing the pineal gland, the center of the brain, to secrete serotonin, make melatonin, chemicals. They put the body in automatic, run the heart, run the lungs, run the blood, and keep it serene and safe and automatic while they're out exploring. Means the Atma is focusing on one of its other forms somewhere. And then when you come back in the morning, because there's been absolutely no training whatsoever from birth through adulthood about any of this, including what the imagination is, they think it's made up in the brain. So how can you bring back anything from out there if it's all done in the brain? Well, you can't, because this brain doesn't have recorded in it growing up any of that in this life. You have to go out as a being and bring it back here. Past lives, all that stuff. You don't learn it growing up in this thing. So why should you have access to it? People don't think this way because these suppressive things keep them from using their higher IQ, let's put it that way, common sense. Common sense is the ability of a being to perceive a multidimensional creation and play in it, move in it, create in it, work with others who know how to do that. This is what's underway now. It cannot be reversed by any power on any planet in the physical universe. And it's moving one way.
And that's up.
So you get so far down that you're on a planet, you don't remember what you are, and you look at me, you think I'm a body. And my imagination's made up in my brain, and you don't remember your name or what you used to know. You can't get any lower. There's only one way from there, and that's up. That's recall and remembering, because that's it. That's where we are. So when I go into the hues, it's telepathic. It's not psychic. I'm not putting down psychics, okay? They have their place. It's all good. But the hues should be behind what they know what they're doing, because it'll take them out of the current being split into two opposing forces. One day they're over here and they get this psychically right. Next day they're over here and they got it completely wrong. From day to day or week to week or year to year, you have to go into the hue that keeps them like this to get accuracy. And you can't do it from the lower dimension bodies because they got their own problems. You've got to do it as the Atma from the upper worlds, and then look at history, the time track, past and future from there. There probably aren't even any publicly conscious people out in the world that can do that on Earth right now. And if there are, they're probably keeping their mouths shut because they know people can't handle it even if they told them it. There's that. So, no. When I go into the hue, it's telepathic. That means the white core of that being above your head is connected to the white core of the being, whether it knows it or not, running a body somewhere on Earth. And it's beginning to work with that and get that awake, because it has the capability to be awakened, recalled, recovered, remembered, etc. And so it begins to shut down these negative subconscious programs that are in an energy field around that sphere above your head, and it was artificially put there, through which the being looks at the multiverse and sees distorted images of truth and thinks it's seeing the real thing, and it isn't. They're seeing images of fear and terror. If I remember, this will happen to me, or that will happen to me, or that happened to me last life and I was killed and run over by a herd of reptilians. That'll happen to me again. It won't, it can't, because that's been stopped beyond this planet permanently. But people believe it can subconsciously, so they're afraid to know the truth about who they are that isn't this, and how to utilize it, how to work with it, how to create with it, how to move it around, how to meet other beings, how to get out of their body, which they do every night anyway, I might remind them. Like experts, they cause this pineal gland to do this whole thing and put the body in a trance state called sleep, so it'll run automatic when you're gone for 8 hours or whatever. So when beings become aware that they're leaving their body every night, but not, out of fear, not bringing back awareness mostly, then what I do is help them go on a journey that I kind of guide, or I describe what it is we're seeing. Because the part of them that's the white core of that being will start to see what it is that's being described. They're co-creating, remembering how to know stuff beyond Earth, on other planets, other dimensions, as a being, not a body. And on that journey, when I do the hues for the different forms, it shuts down this negative stuff in the astral, causal, mental, and etheric bodies and lives you're living. You don't remember. So they can sit in a contemplation, in a trance state, and join us. The one Atma begins to get them to work together. Your higher selves, as people think on Earth, aren't really helping people much here, like they think, or the world wouldn't be like this. It means they're living selfish lives for the most part in those planes, and higher matter bodies with greater ability relatively, and they're not that concerned about what's above or below them like you. You got to get them awake. Emotionally balanced, mentally balanced, causatively balanced, etheric. You got to get them awake and working with you here. And that takes conscious, imaginative use of the higher faculty of direct knowing perception that's located near the core of your being. Not a body. It needs to be awoken. Or you're just trying to make the brain somehow tell the universe to come and fit itself in here. Your head would explode off your shoulders if you tried that. The brain can be worked 100%, and it can take in the enlightenment of knowing all this stuff and understand it. But the actual storage for all those lives and all those planes and all down the time track, since we came from the higher worlds and started running these lower bodies, cannot fit in the human brain at all. It can fit here, not here. Here, not here. But it can condition this, turn on genomes that are shut off, and get certain things done so that you appear the same to everybody on Earth, but hey, you've got all your thrusters working now, and the old brain cell and IQ is going through the roof. And that becomes a channel into this world that begins to affect other people in a good way around you. Because it's an energy that flows through us, and we co-created it to liberate our fellows, not just on Earth, everywhere. We start working with beings of countless numbers that are doing that right now. We become co-creators with them on Earth while the rest of the planet's sleeping. And it is the way to do it safely. So, I'll begin these tones. People can participate or listen to whatever they want. In this lifetime alone, I had to work for more than 30 years working with this just to get enough training and awakening of what I knew before I myself was shut down and forced to be in a body here against my will. I came to this earth for one reason, and that reason was intercepted at that time, more than 60 years ago. My purpose for being here now is being fulfilled.
That's awesome. I'm just trying to get comfortable because it's important to be comfortable. Otherwise, you do focus on your body. You said that one time to me, and that's very true.
Yeah, it's good always to get comfortable in a chair, lying down, whatever's good for you. And then we're going to take a couple of deep breaths, and you breathe it out. And when you breathe it out, all you have to do is imagine, as easily as it is if you're sitting having a cup of coffee, looking out the window, and you imagine a beautiful hummingbird by a waterfall you saw last summer on a camping trip, or the beach, or the mountain, or whatever. People do it idly all the time, effortlessly, without thinking what it is they're doing, because they're actually seeing as a being what it is they're imagining. Your eyes could be looking out the window at your backyard and the tree, and the eyes are seeing the backyard and the tree on Earth. But you are imagining the waterfall and the hummingbird. The brain isn't doing that. The eyes don't see that. But something that sees and hears beyond physical capability does. I'm trying to point this out to people to show them that they do this all the time easily, but they don't understand it consciously. So they don't get the advantage of exercising higher faculties of being until they become commonplace and easy for the human self you grew up with. And that's required. Okay. A lot to get in a short show, and these are becoming longer shows. I'm a little concerned about that. They have to get them on YouTube. It's not only the rap in the beginning, which is done telepathically. It's not just chit chat. I'm not here to debate things with people. I don't have time for that on this planet. I'm here to put out a certain field of energy, maintain a balance and poise and dignity with it for the benefit of all living things on this planet. Period. All. The beings I work with from other worlds think and function and create in this manner. They know what was done to tyrant extraterrestrial races long ago that made them behave the way they do. It doesn't mean they allow them to go and butcher things. They will stop them if they have to, but the basic thing that they didn't have as tools before was the ability to change them, to remove what was done to them through the misuse of very advanced science long ago, so they no longer behave like tyrants. If tyrants don't come back to Earth secretly in a classified arena, or without the permission of people on Earth any further, then Earth will unravel this tight knot. People here will have a chance and an opportunity to take our place as a planetary culture among the stars and play out there with others. But we must remember in doing this that, and I'm saying this as a diplomat, we must remember as doing this, we have to be respectful of the far more advanced humanoid and other life out there who won't lord it over us, and that would be happy to share it with us if we can be trusted not to be lunatics. Crazy, fear-driven people out there with spaceships. No. They're not going to tolerate that now or ever. So if we want to play among the stars, and I think everyone would like to, really, then we have to become sane, free of subconscious fear, and running 100% use of your brain, your IQ goes up, everything needs to work normally. And you could have field exchanges and have your kids go to a planet 500 light years away for the weekend. The technology doesn't need to be invented. It's there. It's been there for hundreds of millions of years in some cases, this anti-gravity stuff on other worlds, other cultures. That's the basis. So what I'm sharing with you is telepathic. It's meant to help people recover. Wait a minute, at some point, what I'm doing, people start to go, wait a minute, that sounds really familiar. Gosh, wait a minute, I used to know that. That's common sense. How did I forget that? I don't care what religion they're in anywhere. When they start to work with the hue, it's going to wake them up to the direct spiritual experience they're seeking, the real truth of it, and drop away the crap that was propagated by tyrant dictators on this planet running the priestcraft. That stuff will wash away. And they'll remember what they used to know about the source behind all life, the supreme being, before they were ever born on this backward planet of misdirected fellow beings. And then the truth cannot delude them. It cannot escape them. Talk about divine love. I'll tell you what that is. It isn't what people on Earth think it is. It's respect for all life on all levels, on all planets, in all dimensions, all the way to the source itself and back again. That is the direction and purpose of a human being, actually, to be a co-creator with that. So would you think people are really have free will on this planet the way they are in that regard? Not yet. But they're destined to have that. The prophesied Armageddon destructive destiny of this planet was permanently and forever altered for the better a few years ago from beyond Earth. So if you're looking for an Armageddon to escape and go to heaven, you might as well forget about it. It isn't going to happen anymore. Who do people on earth think they are to tell the source behind all life it cannot change its mind? Hmm? We're part of that source. Collectively, we comprise what it is, because that thing above your head is made of an energy that is not nuclear, and it comes and is made of exactly the same energy as the supreme source, the prime creator, as beings from other worlds call it, the source itself. It has no negative or positive in it. It is beyond all that. It supports all life. We are comprised of that. Running bodies who have forgotten all about that, identify and think we're bodies. So we get stuck in them and imaginatively, out of fear, recreate being stuck in them, reincarnating in them with no memory because they're afraid to remember over and over and over again. That is coming to an end, that kind of thing. As the Mayans put it, the end of their calendar, when it ended and a new one began, they said they're simple people. They didn't know what form it will take, but they did know it did not fit into any religious books on this planet. It means, and they say it, the end of evil as an experiment on earth. Whatever that means. So, this new calendar is heading in a new direction. And it doesn't have to be pinned on the Mayans, simple people. This is a universally true, way beyond Earth. Mayans, Aztec, or anybody else that ever existed on this planet. The thing I have to point out to people is that religions as people know them on Earth and what their names are do not exist like that on any of the world's systems, and there are trillions of them. They know about this omnipresent first word or sound that is missing from books on Earth, that was not a spoken word but a vibration, and they knew how to communicate with it directly, and they do today. So in a sense, they know more about the source than people on Earth do, and they live it. They aren't in belief, they know. A knowing being can co-create with that source. One in faith alone is fraught with misunderstanding, doubt, and fear, and they're going to cause problems because they don't know for themselves. The hue will help bring the awareness of that vitality and spark of certainty and knowing and experience into whatever they believe. And the only way they're ever going to find that out is to apply it for themselves. Find out that there is a protection, there is an enlightenment that goes with this. People who work with this properly and use their imagination correctly and start to stop misusing it out of fear, they begin to change right here on Earth. They begin to remember. They lose this fear, this desperate fear of the future. They lose the fear of Wall Street crashing and this and North Korea and Iran and this and well, that didn't work. Let's go over to Iran. Let's go back to North Korea. Then everybody will buy that. No. I kept telling people we're never going to have any problem from them ultimately. So when that ended, and Trump goes over there and they shake hands, and now they're buddy-buddy, and then you don't hear anything about it. Now we're over focusing on Iran, and that's the big problem. None of that's ever ended in nuclear war. It doesn't mean they haven't tried. It means that something's prevented it. And people need to understand, I think, for their own good, what it is and how it is and why it is it's been prevented, and by whom or by what. Because that will take them into an expanded consciousness of understanding the multiverse, not just Earth. I will start these tones now, and then we'll go on a little journey. So if you're ready, Gail, I would say get comfortable, close your eyes, shut off those peepers, because you're not going to be using them where we're going. Those are in the physical universe, and they see a very tiny fraction of light. So close your eyes, shut them off, or you're going to be seeing this world, and you're not going to be seeing much of what we're doing. You do it every night anyway. What's the big deal? How hard is it to close your eyes as if you're going to sleep? Get rested, comfortable. Put all your fears of the future And that means everything and anything. Loved ones, family, Wall Street, nuclear work, chemtrails, whatever it might be, anything you're seeing on the outer, in the internet, on news. There's an equal balance of misdirection and truth hidden in all of that, laced through all of it. An equal balance, which means as you look at both of it, you remain in fear at the end of the day, or in doubt, in uncertainty, in debate, in theory. That doesn't change anything, ever. So you're leaving of your own free will, fear of the future aside, just for now, for this trip. You have the ability to do it. You do it every night. You're going to put it in little computer programs you imagine, little discs around on your bed, on the floor. There's all my fear of the future. There's my fear of my age. There's the fear of dying. What am I going to do when I leave here? All that stuff. Just for now, it is being turned off so that you, the being, can rise above that body in a directed journey and begin to see and know things that are being described, telepathically shown you, so that you can bring back the awareness of what you're doing while you're out of your body to the body, download it in that brain that never had any of this recorded in it growing up, and get it more aware and enlightened, etc. I'll begin these tones now. Being out of the body is easy, effortless. You do it all the time without realizing it, for the most part, most people anyway. When you imagine a beautiful woman or man, hummingbird, waterfall, ocean, beach, mountain, sky, planet, other dimension, other reality, there's a part of you that actually sees that. You call it daydreaming on Earth. But that isn't what we're doing at all. Daydreaming has nothing to do with anything being made up in your brain. Why should you know any different if you grew up on a planet where everything limiting and misdirecting is taught you as what is normal? Why should you know it? Why would you be confident with what you do every night when you leave your body and put it in the dream state called sleep? Why would you have any confidence with such if you were never taught this growing up? And the first formative 6 years of the development of the subconscious influence for this lifetime, much less the subconscious you brought to this planet unknowingly. Why should you know it? The brain you grew up with in the body you have here was never taught this, has no memory of it, was not programmed with it. Why should you have it to recall anything from the physical brain about any of this? Well, you don't. You can't. But you, the real being running that brain and that body, has a knowing understanding of all this from countless billions of lives that you no longer recall or remember. Of course, it doesn't mean that any of this is lost permanently. It just means that something is keeping you in terror of remembering it. Enlightenment has everything to do with recall and remembering over and above subconscious drives. Thus, meditation stopped the mind and emotions. That was okay for men and women thousands of years ago, but it doesn't work for modern man. Because stilling and stopping the mind and emotions is only the beginning. Once that's done through the hue, which is the tool advanced gurus or master teachers from other worlds use to stop that stuff before they attempt to go out of their body or do anything of any value. They want to operate from the free consciousness of the Atma itself, soul, what people call it on earth. It has a form and a structure. It is round, spherical, like a planet or a sun or a star or a moon, because those things were made in a patterned way after what we look like as energy. Planets don't look like human beings with 2 arms and 2 legs floating in space, do they? Why? Because 2 arms and 2 legs and eyes and ears is a vehicle we run made of matter for particular parallel dimensions, so the Atma has tactile and sensorial experiences it can draw from in that plane. The original purpose was to utilize those bodies to find new ways of doing things for the benefit of all life on all dimensional levels. That was the original intent. Something went wrong long ago in creation when the experiment of evil was put into play in the lower dimensions and set on automatic. Doing that eventuated in many beings forgetting who they are, running bodies, thinking their bodies, one accident, one damage, a war, an elephant sits on your head is going to ruin your body for sure. And suddenly you're in terror, seeking another body, instead of knowing what you are as an Atma and not being afraid. Fear drives people to incarnate in lower forms, to seek a sense of security that is false. We've all done it. Don't feel singled out. Got a whole planet of people on planet Earth that don't remember who they are, which means they got to become here one way or another in a way they don't remember, and they're terrorized of remembering it. It isn't conscious, at least not yet. There will come a time when every single being living on this planet will know extraterrestrials exist in profuse numbers, more evolved than we are for the most part, kind, not tyrants. That day is coming, so you might as well get ready for it. You can imagine being out of your body easily, because when you go to bed at night, two things happen. One, you lay it down, you the being, not the brain, and you command from one of the teardrops and one of the layers of that spherical thing that you are, that's connected to your nervous system through the pineal gland, the brain, and you tell it, secrete serotonin, make melatonin, put the body in the trance state. I'm going bye-bye. And I'll bring back energy in the morning that will refresh the body and you'll feel rested. But I got to go do some stuff. And so you do it every night. You have the expertise to know how to put the body in the trance state. It isn't automatic. The brain doesn't do it, you do. Step number one in recovering galactic and interdimensional awareness as a being, not a body. Be above your body, up by the ceiling, floating there as a spherical being made of white light and a sun, like a sun in the center of a structure that has a white core, and then another layer of teardrop-shaped lights that are luminous. It's not matter. They are faculties of being. Surround it in kind of a yellow layer. Then it goes to orange, and then little green, then blue, then lavender, then violet. And there's a golden field of pattern emanating throughout the teardrops, through the layers that kind of surrounds it. And around that is a transparent field of energy, artificially created, that is made of matter, that has images distorted intentionally, through which you see the multidimensional universe in terror and fear of the unknown. And this was done through the misuse of advanced science by tyrants, not from Earth. In a history you don't remember. It's reversible. You can look down on this body the same way you imagine a hummingbird or a waterfall. You're now seeing it from above your body, and it's sitting there, eyes closed or laying down. If you're smart, if you're wise, if you're courageous, you'll be going in this direction because some part of you is compelling you to recover. You are co-creating that with me. I'm not doing it to you. I'm not a tyrant. We don't work like that. You can see your body peaceful and serene. Basically, it's running on automatic. Be above your place where you live, 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere, day or night, and you can see all the way down to where you live through whatever roof is above your head, and you can see yourself as a sphere, a duplicate of you, hovering above that body, smiling kindly down on it. And you are in the atmosphere now, focusing there. You could be aware of the body at the same time, but you're also aware of what I'm sharing with you to see as the Atma above it. Simultaneously, it's okay. And you can see around you, you'll see that I'm hovering there, Gail and some other beings, friends of mine from out of town, from off planet. Kind beings, wondrously evolved. There's Ambassador Torelli of the Say race, who's an Atma like us. And we're in a circle around him to keep a focus on this journey. He's not from Earth. He is an ambassador of a race called the Say race, and they are human. They did what's called immortalize their physical body over 1 billion Earth years ago. They aren't from the Milky Way or Andromeda galaxies. They were great scientists back then, given the task of helping to develop higher genetic forms that are bipedal, that could travel in ships around the multiverse when they were evolved enough. And they helped bring these forms into creation and raise them so that the Atmas could run them and run higher faculties of awareness through them, through the nervous system. This was the original intent. The races they helped develop to spacefaring capability in the Milky Way are many. And when they were done with a certain job, they left, they vanished, disappeared, poof, kaput's gone. Never to be heard from again until recently. When I say they immortalized their body, they didn't make a body 36 for a million years. No. They dematerialized it and stored it in one of those teardrops in the atom that they are. And when they move around the universe without the restrictions of space and time and physics, causation, dark matter, black holes, any of that, they move between dimensions instantly on a current of energy that is not made of matter, that underlies all of it. When they go fill out a mission, they can materialize a physical body instantly. You go up and shake its hand. If it's done with that mission, it just disappears and off they go. That is true immortalization of a physical body, by the way. You evolve enough, you happen to like a particular form, you keep it around. But you're never suffering from the illusion that you are a physical body. No. You can see some other beings here, men and women, because they manifest a physical energy form that looks like men and women, hovering in front of the Atma, the sphere that they are, so that you can see what they are. And these men and women are from the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, make up over half of the Milky Way galaxy now. Another race called the Xiantranaman, Tramos from Xiantranaman 1, a very advanced humanoid race, makes up or is jurisdiction over the other half. And they've recently joined in a harmonious manner. So as you can see, when I say tyrants are on their way out, they are. They're not being killed. They're being set free. If we want to run the lower dimensions down here of time and space differently than has ever been done before in history of the entire multidimensional creation, then we have to do this collectively on all levels. That is underway now, and it cannot be reversed, fortunately. We might as well get in swing with it because it's coming our way. When you're floating there in the atmosphere above Earth, at 5,000 feet above the ground, you find yourself and all of us suddenly floating in space, in orbit above the planet, like the space show. You are a spherical energy being. You don't need to breathe oxygen. You don't feel heat or cold or radiation from the sun. And you're floating there around Turelian, and these men and women in front of their atlas, who look to be about 36. Some of them have long silver hair and violet eyes. Some of them had human eyes, blonde or brunette hair. And they're slightly larger than human eyes on Earth. This is what they look like aboard their ships, some of which are stationed in the atmosphere in our solar system, permanently for now, shifted out of phase. It just means their molecular time rate that makes up their craft, an electromagnetic field, is shifted into that of a parallel dimension. So you can't detect them on radar or see them unless they wish you to see them. They can carry out missions this way safely. They can help people when they're out of their bodies at night as master teachers or very well adept in their field of expertise, especially in the unwinding of subconscious negative programs. And if you ask them, they will help you. Remember that these beings do not have a subconscious mind. They have no negative nature at all. Normal human beings do not either. Which means that negative emotions and imaginings, hatred, anger, fear, and greed, and undue attachment to material things, and overindulgence in any one thing to where it distorts you, are all subconsciously driven negative programs, like computer programs that affect the nervous system. And right now they are all off while you're on this journey. This means that you are using far more than 100% of your brain because you're not working with the brain and the body. It is turned off with your eyes. Body's running fine on automatic. And you're in space, hovering around Turelian, And there's 4 master teachers that are showing up here. One has a short cropped curly black beard and curly black hair and a maroon robe and sandals, and he's holding a crystal staff made of quartz. And at the top is a cross with an oval ankh with a hole in it. It means eternal life, basically. It's a device. Its function is specific. And there's an Atma hovering behind it, quite bright, quite old, quite ancient. There is a master teacher named Opelum from a planet called Oceania who has slightly pale blue skin, pointed ears, beautiful emerald green eyes, long black shiny hair, little webs between his fingers, little gill slits under here. You wouldn't even notice it. Not like on Marvel or something. They're just very unobtrusive. You wouldn't even see them while he lifted his head. And this is a human race that evolved with the ability to breathe underwater on land. He's a master teacher. So he is the original founding member of the entire galactic interdimensional alliance of free worlds a very long time ago, under the encouragement of Tyrellian and the Sayres. You might as well become aware of him, because he's out and about, he's ageless, he has a physical body that does not age. This other fellow, Master Ramu, the black short curly beard, has a physical body that does not age. There are several women master teachers here. One that looks to be from India, one has blonde hair, beautiful blue eyes. They both appear to be about 36. They do not age. These are the forms they actually have on Earth or some other world that they're running. And they're not suffering from the illusion that they are these forms. The man and the woman from the Galactic Alliance a man and a woman will now hover as an Atma near you, each one of you, and they're smiling kindly and put a hand over this area. Remember that this is the Atma behind that physical form that's really talking with you. And they will tell you, they will help remove these subconscious programs with your free will cooperation. At night, when you're out of your body in the trance state called sleep, where you have greater faculties and capability of decision making without fear. That way, when you wake up in the morning, you will be different, better. You have to request this. They are not tyrants. You're being directed now to look down on planet Earth, and you can see it has polar ice caps and oceans and land like you're familiar with seeing of shots from the Hubble telescope or satellites or space shuttle. You can see the moon with all its craters does not turn on its axis and moves in an orbit around the Earth, always showing us the same face. So they call the backside the dark side, but it isn't dark. It's just not pointing to Earth, but it goes in front of the sun. And when it's over here, it's daylight over there and dark over here, as people see it. Blocks the sun. And then you suddenly see, like a heat wave in the desert, move across the field of space. And when you look out into space, you've seen pictures of the space being black between the Earth and the moon and the stars. Billions of stars in our galaxy you can see towards the Milky Way, the center. Except as the Atma, you can see that it is a white light with a golden tinge to it, moving, vibrant under and between everything. Between Tyrellian and me, and Gail and all of you. Between the Earth and the moon and the sun. It is there, and it's not made of matter. And when you look at the Earth now, you see that it changes. Earth in the same place at a higher frequency of molecular time rate. And now the Earth has no polar ice caps. One large continent centered over the equator from the left to the right hemisphere. Sphere. It's a continent that goes up 2/3 of the way towards the pole, goes to the right hemisphere, comes down 2/3 of the way to the pole, and on the bottom end of it is this half moon bay, crescent-shaped emerald green beach you can see from space, and it's glowing. When you look over at the moon suddenly, you find that it is not the moon with the craters. It has poles, it's turning, it has oxygen and clouds and rain, and 5 domed cities on the front, and there's lakes and rivers and mountains, even snow. And as it's turning on its axis, as it moves around the planet, there's a domed city on the backside. It's more mountainous and hilly, but beautifully cultivated, not overpopulated. This planet Earth and Moon exist in what's called a parallel dimension, a third level up from the Earth you're used to. It means the molecular time rate of all matter in that parallel dimension vibrates at a faster rate, a little bit faster. So you won't see or perceive it walking around the physical body that's made of matter that's in a slower rate. There's a plane between it. We're not going there. That continent to this day is called Lemuria or Mu. On that world, the poles never flipped 100,000 years ago, destroying the land masses and rising new lands from the seafloor. In that Earth, which has been there for ages, it's been a protected environment, sponsored by the Say-Rays, no negativity of any kind or negative emotions or imaginings has been brought there by the beings who work there because they don't have subconscious minds. And we're going to take a little trip. We've done this before, but it bears repeating to get better and deeper clarity for those going on this journey with us, to exercise their creative imagination, which is created by the white core of the being, not the body, not the brain, in the body, in the trance state back on Earth. We're going to go down into the atmosphere as a group, flying, surrounding Tyrellian. And as you pass through the clouds, they have a slight pink tinge to them. You can feel the atmosphere moving through the core of your being as we circle around Tyrellian like stars around a galactic core. It's for focus, that's all. And he serves as a bit of a guide to keep people focused on something constructive. And you find we come down into the atmosphere, which you can tell immediately is pure. There's no contaminants in it. And you look at a beautiful blue-green ocean. And we're coming very rapidly towards a crescent-shaped, kind of a mile-long, I think it's about a mile, half mile, about a mile-long, emerald green beach that's glowing with a foot of green light a foot above the sand. And it's at the bottom of this point, of this huge continent that covers one hemisphere to the other on this planet Earth. You can see right through the planet as an atom, and you can see there's another continent, 2/3 its size, center of the equator on the opposite side of the planet. That's still called Atla, and Atlas, I guess you could call it Atla or Atlantis, but it isn't a separate colony. It is a, let's just say that the beings who have dome cities here, the few that are there, are from the Galactic Alliance. They are highly trained technicians, master teachers, who don't call themselves gurus. Teachers is a better word. And they work there with the new ray and the hue to set up how they're going to unravel the tight knot of 7 billion people who don't remember who they are. There's a domed city inland from this beach. Look down at the emerald green beach. You'll find you're able to zoom your focus into it. And you can see that the little grains of sand are rounded, polished, clear, pure emerald stones. And they are radiating a bit of a green light about a foot above the sand. And you look inland, there are these tall tropical jungle trees and giant prehistoric ferns and a brown moss-covered path leading straight back about 3 feet wide, about a mile from the beach. And you look down and you suddenly realize that you have bare feet, your bare feet, sinking into the emerald green sand, wiggling your toes, and you can feel the soothing, cool, and warm energy simultaneously moving up your legs. It is comforting. It's familiar. Can't quite put your finger on it, but it seems right. It goes up your legs and through your body, which appears to be 36 in perfect health, not like you were on Earth. And you're smiling, and you look up and you see that you, the real you, as a sphere of energy is hovering above that form that you've manifested, you've created here as you saw your feet sinking into the sand. It is made of energy from the Atma, the core of your being. It looks human, but it is not a human body. You are manifesting a form that vibrates at the same molecular time rate as the green beach, so you can be in touch with it and move the energy of what it's meant to reveal to you. Goes up the top of your head and into the white core of your being and out into the green layer that surrounds the white core. And it turns on several of those teardrop-shaped faculties. This has to do with memory and recall and remembering. Because those higher faculties, and a lot of you has not been on for, in some cases, 500,000 or several million years. In lifetimes you've lived, you've been made to forget. That's not normal. And this is beneficial only because when you look at this green light coming from the sand, the outer edge of it is a white light with a gold tinge. And this is the new ray operating in the omnipresent first sound, spirit, conscious living energy behind all creation that is moving up your legs into the core of your being, seeing to it that this green energy is only used in an uplifting, beneficial way and in no other way. And you find yourself looking, the body just disappears, and you're hovering above the sand. When you look behind you, you can see Turelian manifesting his physical form. The Atma's hovering above him. He's up to his knees in ocean water, out in the ocean, standing there, 18 feet tall, with long blonde hair, beautiful, big blue eyes, bigger than a human on earth, pointed ears like an elf, a tunic, kind of a gown on like a Greek god. And he's just standing there with two thumbs up, smiling at us. Just a quirky little smile. He has an odd sense of humor that I like, anyway. The man of few words, more telepathic and more to the point. And he points inland, and you look up this straight as an arrow, brown moss-covered path 3 feet wide, and find yourself moving over the top of the jungle, following it. You come to rest on a white marble floor, couple hundred feet across, in a circular clearing where this road ends. And there's tall, 4-foot-high lavender grass gently blowing in a soft breeze. And you can feel hands appear below you, like your bare feet. You can feel the tips of the blades of this grass brush the palms of your hands, kind of tickles. And you can feel a kind energy, a violet energy, enter your hands, beneficial. That has to do with removing blocks in the way to your remembering, fear. In the center of this white marble floor is a statue of a woman 10 feet tall on a blue square pedestal in bare feet with a beautiful, elegant, translucent gown, longer hands and fingers than people on earth. She's 10 feet tall, a little longer neck, beautiful violet eyes, and it's a quartz statue made of quartz, pure, optically pure, let's put it that way. You can see through it, and you can sense that their hair that's duplicated just inside this crystalline form is silver, like silver metal. And you can reach out and touch it right through the crystal, and it's soft. And this being smiles at you. A being of this woman just behind the structure of the crystal, smiling at you from somewhere inside another dimension. She has big angel wings made of quartz, but she's not angelic. She's not from anything to do with Earth. These wings represent the ability of the Atma, which you can see hovering above this statue, which is her, to fly through the universe freely. Free of the body is what this is trying to say. Around her forehead is a gold band with an upside down, teardrop-shaped, faceted green emerald cut crystal. And it's glowing, and her hands are to her side, palms glowing, and you can see all the way down the beach that it's lighting up and charging the sand that just went in your feet a little while ago. And you look through this crystal and you can see inside suddenly find yourself inside a huge area of green atmosphere. And she's standing in the middle of the atmosphere just like she appears as a statue, but this is actually her physical form. This is a interdimensional doorway, kind of a interdimensional corridor. And she's hovering in this green energy, smiling at you and telling you that you're welcome. And that this and what she runs here is a gift to this planet Earth in a parallel dimension for the sake of all people on the Earth where you come from. And then she shows you a planet floating in this green atmosphere called Xiantranamon 1, and it's 4 times bigger than Earth, and it's on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, orbiting a trinar sun system. That means a big sun, blue giant, a yellow one like our Earth, and a slightly smaller one, a red dwarf. And they are moving around each other, and these planets, this particular planet is moving around it in an orbit. There are 3 worlds hovering above this planet that are the size of Earth, that have life and domes, atmosphere and water and oceans on them. She points to this world, and you find yourself walking in bare feet, the real you hovering above your form, in a valley by a river. There are huge red mesa plateaus on each side of this, 20 miles across valley, and you can see on one end big pillars supporting a cavern opening. On the other, you can see a huge clear dome covering a city, 3 gold pyramids with quartz caps. And you're walking by this river looking at this, and this woman comes up to you in her physical body, 10 feet tall. And she puts her hand over here and nods. So you do the same. And she points to this, and next to her is a male. This is her mate. And she tells you that the bodies she's running and the people on their world in the physical universe are 3.5 million years old. They have genetic science down to a T. Corellian immortal is his body, and you can see him appear standing up 18 feet behind her, and the Atma hovering above him. And his body just appears right out of one of these little tear shops, just materializes. And they point to this and say, this is more advanced. They are running bodies they know they're not, keeping them ageless. He can materialize a body at will out of the pure omnipresent you that flows through him. So these Xiantranamus people respected Turellian, of course, but he is not a tyrant. He's not a lord over them. He is a friend. Then you find yourself inside this green atmosphere, looking out through the emerald green stone of a gold band around this quartz statue. You look behind you, there's the woman standing there. And then you look through this emerald stone, you find yourself outside this statue, looking back at the forehead, and you can see the woman behind the quartz face smiling at you. You look into the distance and you see this brown moss-covered path extends further up the mountainside, and then you see a giant snow-covered single mountain, and up 2/3 toward the summit is a waterfall, green and blue, radiant, dropping out of a cavern opening, thousands of feet. It disappears near the base, up the plateau at the base of the higher part of the mountain, and it flows between blue-green forest trees that surround a clear dome city, again with 3 gold pyramids with quartz caps. Countryside and a lake and little ivory-colored dome buildings and little paths and our beautiful landscaped rock gardens, a big lake in the middle of it, the 3 domes in the background, and a long oval ivory-colored building at the base of the 3 pyramids. Now, this is a place where Galactic Alliance personnel, master teachers, Turellian and others, Oceanan, Master Ramu can come, these women adepts, and they congregate and they work out the details of how they are helping to unravel the tight knot of 7 billion unconscious people on planet Earth so that they do not destroy themselves. Find yourself flying over the top of that brown moss-covered path, until you come to stop above this dome city, high above the mountain peak. You can see that there's a cave or a cavern, semi-spherical, cut out of the mountain above the cavern opening for the water, and there are little dome lights leading down into the interior. That goes to a galactic interdimensional alliance of free worlds base built in 1908 inside the Mount Shasta in Northern California. Beings can operate there and come through that cavern opening, which leads to an interior of the mountain in our parallel dimension where the Earth is that you're familiar with. But it comes to this third parallel dimension, to an Earth that does not flip its poles. They are connected. Such realities as this and others in other worlds that are connected to Earth, and the beings that run them, are not going to tolerate Earth people blowing themselves up in nuclear war. Of course they're not. They would affect things negatively in other realities, and they're not going to tolerate it. Fortunately for us. You look up and you find yourself hovering above the planet, the one with the big continent over the equator. And you see a little heat wave go over it. You can see Torellian and myself and these master teachers and these men and women hovering nearby you, smiling in a circle. And then you see another several 300 other beings manifest in a circle around us. They've been invited to telepathically get what we just experienced, to take back home to their worlds, to share with them that there are beings on Earth right now that are capable against all odds to do this kind of thing, because you are beginning to become co-creators with them and a vast host of beings you have not yet met from beyond Earth on many levels that are moving this direction forward. This is heading towards real disclosure, but not just disclosure that favors a few, disclosure that favors the survival of all life on Earth. That means human, plants, animals, all of it. Great changes in consciousness are destined to happen to people here simply because something has changed. We might as well begin to tune in with it. It's easier to go through a transformation when you're cooperating with it than resisting it and having all the fear and struggle affect you before you drop it. It's unnecessary. Then you find that image of that other world and moon that's alive with life turning on its axis changes to the one you're familiar with the crater pockmarked moon. And you find yourself hovering in the atmosphere on Earth above where you live at 5,000 feet. And all of us are still there. And you find yourself hovering above your physical body on Earth, smiling kindly down on it. And you're downloading this experience, this out-of-body journey through your own creative imagination with us into the brain that never had this recorded. We always do something a little unique. Other journeys, we go into the higher worlds. But this is more of a grounding, so people get used to a world and an Earth and a moon and people that have no negativity running them. So you can start your more expanded journeys from that perspective and not the one you grew up with on Earth. Be kind to yourself. Let this green and violet and white light with a gold tinge flow from the white core of your being, hovering above your body, into the pineal gland, and it gets sorted out throughout the brain, throughout the genetics of your body, and then it flows as a white light with a golden tinge in every direction through you. Now, this is for the benefit of all life on Earth. If you co-create with it, it will continue to flow through you, and so you can co-create with this change. When you're comfortable and ready, open your eyes.
Whoa. That was a wonderful journey. Thank you.
people do this kind of thing, maybe they don't go as peacefully or into territories that have no negativity in them when they go out of their body, because they've been brainwashed and conditioned to take fear with them. So it manifests because we are co-creators with that source energy. It doesn't really care if you put good or bad in it. It's a co-creator with us. It's how we learn. And it will bring back to the person putting out positive and negative, both things in their life's experience. What's different in that omnipresent energy now is there's another element in it. That in that process, it inspires beings to only use their imagination for uplifting beneficial things, while it helps us unravel this tight knot of misusing the imagination against ourselves. That's what's good about it. So I want to leave you and your radio show listeners all over the world with kindness, goodwill towards all life, and with the understanding that they have the ability to be co-creators on Earth with vast numbers of beings in different realities to help transform this planet Earth into something entirely unexpected. No one saw this coming. Well, some of us did.
Thank you for that very uplifting message, and we'll see you again.
Okay. It's our responsibility, once we know anything like this, to help others recover it too. That's kind of how this works. So I will say good night or good day or wherever you are. And I'll stop the recording to end this.